Tua Tagovailoa, ankle injury, puts Alabama in a familiar territory. It was a year ago, late in the season, when he had problems with one ankle. This is the other ankle. And Nick Saban had this to say just a few minutes ago.
Update on Tua. Surgery was successful. There's no real timetable, for his return, but the expectation is he will be non-weight bearing for several days, and then he'll be able to come back as his rehab allows him. So we're hopeful that, in a 10-day period, he'll be, back being able to do pretty active type rehab, and we'll see how it goes from there. But these things are pretty unpredictable at this point.
Yes, they are, and there are a lot of issues, especially for not only the most valuable player in college football, but would maybe the number one pick in the draft. There's more to this decision than just what Nick Saban, the trainers, and the doctors think. There's a family consideration here, and there's also the biggest game of the year just around the corner. So what is the latest?
Had bad high ankle sprain based on how it's been described to me, underwent surgery yesterday. They will have him essentially off his feet, not putting any pressure on that foot or ankle during the course of the next several days. They're hoping that he will be able to begin, quote-unquote, active rehab in about 10 days. And even with that being a bad high ankle sprain, they are optimistic, they are hopeful that he will be available in time for that game against LSU November 9th.
Matt, compare and contrast this situation to a year ago when he had the other ankle injury and was given the same surgery. What similarities, obviously, but clearly differences. Explain.
I mean, it's a very similar injury. The injury last year that he suffered against Georgia was also a bad high ankle sprain. On the other ankle, he was out for, I think it was 29 days after that they played Oklahoma in the college football playoff. He was back for that game and honestly looked like normal Tua. It was something like 24 of 27 for 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. This time around, you have a week less to get him back to an optimal level. And honestly, just considering the significance of that injury, it's hard for me to believe that they're going to be able to have him back to 100% in time for that game. But fortunately for Alabama, that they have the Andrews group that they work with. They have Jeff Allen and great training staff. So if anybody is going to be capable of getting him anywhere close to 100%, it's going to be those guys.
I realize some of these questions are maybe better for the doctor, but at the same point of the LSU game, do you have any recall on where Tua was in the progression last year and last December?
In the LSU game?
I'm talking about if he got ready in what you said 28 days, is that right?
Yeah, like 28, 29
okay,
days.
so
like that.
So if you subtract the week.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we're talking about 19, 20, 21 days. I mean, where was he last December at that point in time?
I think that he would have been ready to play at that point. I don't think that he would have been as far along as he was when they played Oklahoma, and it's going to be a challenge for them with 20 days now, I think it is, between surgery and the LSU game to get him back to 100%. But they have a different situation as far as the backup quarterback this year compared to last year. And honestly, no offense to Mac Jones, but Tua at 75, 80, 85%. Puts them in a better position to win that game probably than having Mac Jones out there does compared to last year when you had Jalen Hurts, obviously, as the backup quarterback.
Matt, this is clearly a decision for the coaching staff, the trainers, and obviously Dr. Waldron and his group at Andrews. But where does the family play into this? And I bring that up because and everyone knows the family is very involved in Tua. They are around as all families would want to be and can be if possible. Is this more than just is he ready to play, because he's the likely number one pick in the draft?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this too, from everything I've heard, is very committed to being back for that game and is very much determined to being back in time to play LSU and has been telling teammates behind the scenes, going back to the game the other day against Tennessee, that, quote unquote, he's going to be back for LSU.
Yeah, I mean, I buy that, but that's until he gets on his feet and knows how he feels. Listen, I don't know. It seems like, and you tell me, this injury may not be quite to the degree of that, only because it is the other ankle. It's not the playing ankle. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, this one is his right ankle.
So again, we're talking two guys that have never done this type of surgery, trying to analyze it, but it's just common sense would say that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I just know it's a significant injury, and I'm very curious to see what he looks like a few weeks from now when it comes time for that game against LSU. And they'll know more when it comes time for, I guess, 10 days from now, when they're hopeful that he'll be able to begin that active rehab. I honestly, right now, it's a little bit premature, just considering they haven't been able to get him out there for truly significant rehab to see what he looks like when it comes time for that. So once again, they are hopeful, they are optimistic, just based on their success with this surgery in the past, how quickly they've been able to get other guys back, that they will be able to have him for that game. But they'll know a lot more 10 days from now when it reaches that point in his progression, when it comes time for more aggressive forms of rehab and time for him to do more out there than what he's going to be doing right now.
Matt, who is Mac Jones? Tell us about him.
Mac Jones is a guy who, it's funny because I'm sure you remember John McEnroe, the old tennis player. That's the comparison that Coach Saban's consistently thrown out for Mac Jones the last couple of years. A guy who has talent, just like John McEnroe did when he was playing tennis back in the day, but someone that sometimes would let his emotions get the best of him, and it would lead to him not playing at the level that he was capable of playing when he was locked in, focused, and not being all emotional. And it's kind of the same way with Mac Jones. So Mac Jones has some talent, has a good arm, but the challenge for them behind the scenes with Mac Jones is getting him to handle adversity better and just controlling his emotions better when things are not going well. But during the course of the last couple of spring games, you've seen some flashes from Mac Jones. You've seen that arm talent, and he'll be in a position now where he has a full week where he's prepping to be the guy. So you would think that with that full week of practice reps with the first-team offense, that he would be in a position to look better than what he did the other day against Tennessee, especially considering, no offense to Arkansas, Arkansas is not very good this year.
Matt, thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
Always good to be on with you, Paul.
You bet, Matt. Matt Zenitz joining us, AL.com, giving us the absolute latest on Tua. So the whole Tua dilemma continues, and could he have played last year a little earlier? Probably, but let's find out more about the surgery. Tom Rinaldi did a deep dive last year before the Oklahoma game.
Immediately after the MRI, it was very clear, and I got on the phone with the doctors who were there with him. They said, we're going to take him back to surgery.
Basically what I told Tua is that by doing this procedure, we can improve your long-term outcome and function. So not only your chance of playing in the next few weeks, but the way your ankle feels 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now.
The day after the injury, surgeons from Andrews Sports Medicine in Birmingham perform what they call a tightrope procedure on Tagovailoa's ankle.
The high ankle sprain is where the two bones, the tibia and the fibula, spread apart. The ligament between the two bones is torn, and so we're drilling a wire across the two bones that has a little button on both sides, and that allows the two bones to stay together, and it stays in forever, and it provides kind of long-term protection and fixation for the ankle.
While the surgeons had performed the procedure countless times before, this time was different, and all involved knew it.
I think there's no question that this was the most talked about ankle probably in the history of Alabama. At the very end, as we were finishing, I told Norman I took one extra little pull, and I said, this is for the championship.
The rehab started immediately and intensively.
Anyone that has gone through an injury, they can attest to this. It's however you go about doing your business, I think it's your mindset. If you want to get back quick, you can do it.
So a little more information there, and it's a common procedure, and it does work. And I am told, guys, by people since I asked the question to Matt Zenith that Tua probably could have played a week earlier last year, but can he do it this year?
Remains to be seen. I don't expect him to be playing against LSU, but I don't want to underestimate him either, I guess. But my sort of realism thought is that after a major surgery, you're probably not going to be playing, in 2.5 weeks. But
you bring up a very good point, Paul. And this is now his second ankle surgery in 11 months. I mean, he's looking in all the mock drafts and everything. He is the #1 overall player taken. That's a lot of money on the line there. At what point do you have to make that family decision? And how much? I'm sure Coach Saban is involved in that, but I mean, do you see that going in?
But ultimately, this is the family, and I've been told that they will make the decision. I mean, Nick Saban, remember, he's got his other brother on the roster as well, and it's a tough decision. It's just don't pay too much attention to anything you hear until that decision is made. Welcome back. Glad you're here. We were talking during the break. We showed a clip of the surgery, how the surgery is done, and something Matt said, that Tua's telling his teammates that he wants to play and will play. Well, of course. I mean, if I fell down here and was sick, I'd tell my colleagues I'll be back tomorrow, or I'll be back as soon as I can. I mean, that's what everyone does. I mean, we got the situation with somebody 40 years older a minute ago with Coach Rick. He had a heart attack, and he says he'll be back at work. If you can, you will, and if he can, he will as well, as long as his family signs off on it.
Arkansas's fake punt attempt.
Ooh, the chest pass?
The chest pass. I'm not mad at the fake punt attempt. I'm just disappointed at your execution. If your punter can't throw the ball, don't have him try to throw the ball. It's just a bad play.
That play worked in practice.
No, I can't imagine it did. Chad Morris. I know how many people have thrown passes.
Chad
for
Morris is
Arkansas
getting what I would call really desperate.
Yeah.
When you have your punter doing chest passes.
Yeah, everything about that play. I might actually be mad about that one. The more I think
just
about
disappointed.
It, but
the theory was there, just the execution.
Auburn's a very good football team, and when you give them a short field to begin the game, it's hard to overcome. 4 turnovers, a missed field goal opportunity. Those are hard to overcome. And but I will say this: our guys never quit. When we did settle in midway in the first quarter, we played extremely well as a defensive unit. Only giving up 3 points in over 30-plus minutes. Thought we dominated the time of possession from the second and the third quarter, but we struggled to move the ball consistently. But we also knew that from a defensive front standpoint that they had was as good as we've seen, that we were going to have to be creative. We were going to have to get the ball out on the edge, and we attempted to do that several times. We had to throw the ball over 40 times, or right at 40 times, and it's hard to do that. The score dictated a lot of that. We try to pride ourselves on being as balanced as possible, but the bottom line is we just got to get better. And we've got another great opportunity this week. #1 team in the country, one of the winningest programs in the history of college football. We look forward to the challenge, and our guys will be prepared and they'll be ready.
Just with Tua out, just what do you look for from Alabama offensively and their backup quarterback starting?
Well, first of all, there's not many deficiencies on that football team. And when you look at Mac Jones came in the other night, and they'll do a great job of preparing a plan for him to what he can execute and execute at a high level. They've got a great supporting cast around him. Our wide receiver core that you can look all you want. There's not many deficiencies. The speed that they have, and then obviously being able to run the ball with Harris is very effective. So, Mac's gonna. They'll have a plan for him, but as far as deficiencies and looking, you're a quarterback at Alabama and in a program of that caliber, you're a really good football player. Matayo will be back. He's fine. Colton will reevaluate again today, as well as Ben. with his shoulder. And so, I anticipate those guys being out there at practice, but we'll see. At this stage, we're just trying to be as consistent as we can and be able to run the football and get our RPOs working like we want them to get to. So.
Well, in looking at the last game, I think there was a lot of things that we did well in the game. I think we ran the ball probably most effectively, as we have all season long, especially on direct runs. Did a pretty good job on third down. Obviously made some execution errors. Turning the ball over in the red zone on 1st and 2 at the 2 is not a good thing. And when we didn't execute, we didn't have the same relative success, and most of that comes from a lack of attention to detail, which really starts in practice, which is on us and as coaches to, get the players to do a little better. Defensively, we probably, played the run a little better, but when we didn't play and fit the gaps like we were supposed to, that's when they made a couple explosive runs. So those are things that we need to get fixed, as well. So, the focus needs to be on completely on this game, completely day-to-day this week. That's the number one preparation that we have to have, is the mindset that this is the most important game that we're playing all year long, and that everybody's focused from day one, practice one, on what we have to do to have success in the game that we have this week. I think it's important that, when you have a new quarterback, that he has a chance to prepare, and you clearly define the things that you want to do with him in the game, so he gets a good visual picture of and repetitions at, what he's going to be expected to do in the game, and I think that's really important. Great to be playing at home this week. It was a great atmosphere this past Saturday night, another night game for us, and we're certainly looking forward to homecoming and the challenges that this team brings to us. He didn't do anything that really hurt us in the game. I think that he had 2 balls that were dropped, that were critical situations in the game. The one play that he scrambled on third down where he could have thrown the ball, I would assume that if you ask him, he would say, I wish I would have thrown the ball, because we'd have made a first down and the guy was open. But, all in all, I thought he handled the situation really well. And, it's a difficult circumstance to get thrown into. We've got a lot of confidence in Mac. And, with a week of preparation, I think he'll do a lot better in this game.
The worst of the weekend, and mine comes from the Arkansas-Auburn game this past weekend in Fayetteville. Arkansas, I like the creativity with the fake punt, but guys, the chest pass just doesn't really work. And it didn't really work, and it wasn't that pretty. Maybe it just comes down to a little execution here.
It was pretty rough, I'm not going to lie.
Really?
Chest pass sailing high, not ideal. I didn't hate the design.
Don't want that.
Yeah, I didn't hate the design, I got to be honest. What I do hate is when you go rogue as a player. When your offensive coordinator calls something off tackle and you're supposed to hand off the football, but instead you decide to do it yourself, and, by the way, you fumble into the end zone, resulting in a 14-point swing, that quantifies as the worst thing I saw this weekend. Atrocious by Jarrett Garantano.
What in the world was that? Anyway, getting before that, they ran it 3 times up the middle of the line of scrimmage. I'll tell you, as a defensive lineman, I love that you want to run it straight up the middle, Jim Chaney, but attack the edges earlier. Maybe Garantano doesn't feel like he has to be Superman.
I don't know, Spears. Rough right there.
So, here's my best. Trayvon Diggs, what up? Get you a 100-yard return because the player want to go rogue on 4th down. Get gone, defensive, getting in the end zone. That's always going to be my best.
All right, my best comes back from Fayetteville. Cheyenne O'Grady absolutely just bobbling this ball, catches it, gets into the end zone. This kid is an athlete, one of the bright spots of this Arkansas offense. Look at that. I was on the sidelines and my jaw dropped. Because that's just a play. That is a play.
Ball security. Football coach would say ball security.
Ball re-security. Yes.
Fair enough. He did grab it, though. Fair enough.
True.
It was pretty athletic.
It was an athletic play, and again, another bright spot on that Razorbacks offense.
Cheyenne
It was a
O'Grady's
good
been your
moment.
best like 6 different times.
Well, you know what? I'm a big Cheyenne O'Grady fan. Big fan right here.
Hey, Paul, if there's one thing to talk about in college football right now, it is Tua Tagovailoa. He's going to have the other ankle now with that surgery, the spiral surgery or the rope surgery for the high ankle sprain. What is the level of concern, A, for Alabama fans going forward with Tua with 2 rebuilt ankles and potentially his value in the draft coming up in the NFL?
I think it's an interesting question, and Alabama fans are never concerned. They always think everything is going to be perfect, like you could just do surgery and Tua will be better than ever. But I think it is a very troubling situation. It's a different ankle than last year. It's a different situation, but there is a little bit less time to get ready for LSU. And I think when you start weighing his draft status versus his interest and desire to play and the fact that you have a family consideration here, I think it's very perplexing. It's worth remembering, too, his family moved from Hawaii to Tuscaloosa to be with him. They are a very close-knit group. Remember, his brother just joined Alabama as a backup quarterback. So I don't think anyone knows which way this is going. I hate to give you nebulous comments, but Saban said maybe 10 days to 2 weeks. You don't know, and you also don't know once we get to that point if he's not more than 60 or 70%, should he play? Because it could and very will affect his draft status. Okay, let me flip it over and get your thoughts on Mac Jones. You've seen him a little bit. We'll see him a lot more this weekend against Arkansas. And Alabama fans may see more than they want to see of him against LSU. What do you make out of him?
It's interesting. I mean, no doubt there is an immense amount of talent around Mac Jones. I mean, there's 4 receivers out there. If you just get them the ball in space, they're going to make plays for you. But there was a couple throws by Mac Jones that really you look at and you go, you can't put an Alabama uniform on as a quarterback and bounce that throw. There were 2 throws that he just flat out bounced. Now, you can call it nerves, you can call it whatever you want, but this is not Tua. He's not that talented. And a lot of times you watch this offense, you go, those receivers are so good. They can get open versus anybody. Well, partially that is the case, but partially when you watch Tua Tagovailoa, he is so good at manipulating defenses with his eyes. So yes, those receivers can get open, but Tua does a lot to make those openings that big. So this offense is going to be much different. I expect shorter throws. I expect more ball control. I expect them to get the ball out of Mac Jones' hands as quickly as possible because his strong suit is not throwing the football downfield. So they're going to have to lean on Najee Harris, this offensive line, and this running attack. I don't think it'll bite them this week against Arkansas. But you better believe if Mac Jones is in against LSU after the bye week, or if Tua Tagovailoa is not 100%, I think LSU is going to be really hard to beat if they don't have Tua Tagovailoa at 100% health. And we've seen him when he's not healthy. He's not the same player.
Nick Saban said there's no real timeline for Tua Tagovailoa's return. Saban said Monday the quarterback had successful surgery on his ankle and will participate in only non-weight-bearing activity for several days before beginning traditional rehab. And so I have a couple of questions as Paul Feinbaum is with us here. Great to see you, Paul, and Des as well. You guys cover the college game so well. If I'm a team that is contemplating drafting Tua Tagovailoa, who will likely be the first pick in the draft, how concerned should I be about his history of injuries?
I would be extremely concerned. The first thing you want to look at is the tape. The second thing you want to look at is the medical records. And so his file is getting thicker and thicker. Now, they said this is a type of surgery that will prevent this ankle injury from happening again. But we're not sure. Like, his ankles are a big problem right now.
Yeah, it prevented one ankle, but it didn't stop the other ankle.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the problem. He's not a big guy. I mean, he's not tiny like me or you. Well, you. But he just seems fragile as the season wears on, especially when he starts going up against the elite defenses.
And you were here yesterday, Paul, to hear it. But for those who were not, Des, you made the point yesterday, you don't even think he is the best pro prospect quarterback in this draft.
Greeny, I think the number one prospect right now at the quarterback position is going to be Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be the first quarterback off the board. He's smart.
Close game to LSU without Tua and winds up a one-loss team. Do they have a chance of getting in ahead of an unbeaten champion of the Big Ten or Oklahoma or Clemson?
No, because they play a terrible schedule. They opened against Duke, which is a miserable team, and that was the only decent game they had non-conference. Another thing that will be held against Alabama, and it shouldn't, but it will, is that twice Alabama has gotten into the playoffs and won once in the BCS era and in the CPF era, the CFP era, by not winning their own division.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about courts where you can keep something out, but Desmond, they won't.
Let me give you a different scenario, because LSU does have some better wins.
Sure.
How about if LSU loses an incredibly close game to Alabama, one of these overtime things or something? Do they get in ahead of Clemson, Ohio State, or Oklahoma?
Wow, that's a tough argument. I don't think they've earned the right to get in, but I think you can create a strong argument for them to get in. I think if they lose the head-to-head and have one loss, they may have a stronger strength of schedule than some of the other teams that you mentioned, but still, how do you leapfrog in Ohio State or Oklahoma? You know what I mean? So I don't think they're going to get in.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think LSU would have a more compelling reason because their game is at Tuscaloosa. But the committee will factor in the Tua injury. But I don't think there's any way they'll go against Clemson. Even though Alabama and LSU have a better resume, they're not going to keep a defending champion.
Their schedule is what it is. But
they will have to jump either Oklahoma or the Big Ten
Oklahoma barely got in last year, and they had one loss. A totally different situation. But this committee is very political. Even though they say we're trying to identify the four best, they don't care about that.
I mean, no one can argue with Clemson, regardless of their schedule. They will, at that point, they will not have lost a game in 2 years, and they're the defending national champs.
It'd be about
impossible to leave them out. It would feel to me like Oklahoma, based upon the rest of their conference, would be the most vulnerable.
They would be.
Without a doubt, yeah.
But would LSU, let me just leave it this way. You guys watch every single game every single week. Is there any question in your mind Alabama and LSU are two of the four best teams in the country?
Without a shadow of a doubt, they are two of the best teams in the country.
None. I mean, they're two of the three best.
And at the end of the day, isn't that what they're supposed to be trying to accomplish?
Well,
right?
They say the best teams, then you get most deserving teams. Right. That's like splitting hairs.
Sometimes those are the same thing.
Arkansas and Alabama. FPI, 99-1. You don't see that very often in conference games. But don't tell Nick Saban what people are saying.
Will there be an effort to get Talia into the game just to expedite his progression?
You know, we're focused on winning the game. All right, so we're going to try to win the game, and we're going to play the best players that we can play to win the game. And we're not assuming that it's going to be an easy game, all right, and we're not assuming that we'll have opportunity just to play anybody that wants to play, to expedite anything except winning the game. So we're going to play everybody who can expedite winning the game. That's what we're going to do. So I don't think anybody should expect us to do anything else. Man.
Wow, Nick Saban, excited about this game, huh? So, boys are Bama?
It's Bama time.
Well, you
Bama
guys
time.
You guys
we moved
have
the tailgate.
Racked up some frequent Winnebago miles.
I can't get over these fake Bama fans saying we don't have a chance. We're undefeated. Just because Tua is out against Arkansas, that's going to matter. We have the best quarterback room. That's why we're in the locker room here. We have the best quarterback room in the country.
Just flip the ball to Devontae. He'll run 50 yards, touchdown.
That's all you got to do.
All you got to do.
I mean, Big Mac's. Oh, I'm sorry. His name's Mac Jones is probably
Big
out.
Mac, even better.
Big Mac. That's the new. He's officially Big Mac right on now. Thank you for that.
Patty, special sauce,
Yep.
lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions,
on a sesame seed bun.
Bring it all.
You know it.
On a Nick Saban bun.
Right. It doesn't. See, Nick's getting angry because he knows there's no complacency in this locker room.
No, we don't eat McRibs in this locker room. We eat Big Macs. Let's go.
And you know what? Why would anybody and any Alabama fan be worried about LSU? Honestly.
Who?
Paul, do you realize last time LSU beat? I know you know this.
I think it was 1865, wasn't it?
It may as well, Ben. I mean, when's the last time they scored a touchdown on us? Is that
1747?
Right.
You know, once we beat them, and the world comes back to normal, we're going to beat Auburn. We're going to end up beating Georgia or Florida. I don't know who's worse out of those two. And then we'll be back in the playoffs like we are every year. Paul, who's the one team that's been in the playoffs every year?
Clemson?
No, they missed.
Auburn?
No.
Give me a hint. They got 27 championships.
Florida?
No, still no playoff set for them.
Bama.
That's right.
They're Roll Tide.
That's right. So why should we think this won't be any different?
Right.
We still have Nick Saban, right? He's still there?
He's apparently upset.
We still have the most talent, like I think the NFL draft is just going to take place in Tuscaloosa this year.
Yep, best available Bama. Let's go.
Right? You could draft, every team could take one Bama player and make them that much better. So
forget the starters. I think some of the backups could play in the NFL.
Big Mac.
They might as well.
Big Mac.
Big
Talia.
Mac could.
Talia, Paul Tyson. When we flip on ESPN Saturday night, you'll be doing cut-ins all night long for Alabama and Arkansas. What's the conversation and the narrative going to be during and after that game?
It's going to be Mac Jones and what he can do with his opportunity. Because I'll say this, Paul, look, I understand Tua's coming back and eventually he's going to be healthy. But this is a quarterback that's proven there are times where he's not healthy. So Alabama's going to need depth at quarterback. They're going to need it this week to get by Arkansas, which I don't think is going to be a problem. But down the stretch run, if Tua were to get banged up in another game or need to come out, they're going to need to know that someone's there. You know, they had that luxury with Jalen Hurts where it was never an issue. That's no longer there. So Alabama's going to have to know that they have a very capable backup quarterback. And at some point, Paul, I've said it for 3 or 4 weeks now, the kicking game is going to cost Alabama. They've got to get that thing worked out. They've got this week, the bye week, and then LSU. Their season is now about to start, and they're going to need to find depth at the quarterback position, and they'll know a lot about that this week.
Matt, always great to have you on. We will talk to you in a couple of days and watch you tonight and all weekend long. Thank you very much.
All right, Paul, good talk to you. Enjoy Baton Rouge.
Did you know it's been a long time since the AP #1 team has lost to an unranked opponent? When was the last time, guys? Oregon State beating Southern Cal. Wow.
11 years ago.
Long time ago. Woo.
Yep. He was winning his
So that's what Belk is brought to you. Winning with Style brought to you by Bell. This is 122. I'll get that right. Week since Alabama's been ranked #1 in the AP poll. Alabama has done it in 62, and I was a Cub reporter at that 1980 game, guys.
When Bear lost to Mississippi State?
6-3 in Jackson, Mississippi.
Wow.
The point was, it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
So we don't need to worry about Arkansas this week.
Nah, well, not according to Coach Saban.
Yeah, is it just because he hasn't had anything to get fired up about?
Yeah, he has been pretty boring this year.
Yeah.
You brought it up to the last caller, Paul. Who's Alabama played that's going to get, the blood boiling and
that was what I would call a fake outrage.
Right. That was the wait, it's midseason. I haven't had my scheduled rant at the local reporters.
SportsCenter hasn't done a notification on one of my outrages.
Right. We could cue up the montage of all the previous years, the rat poison and the gone and all that.
But I think
we've got it on deck.
You made it a good point earlier, Paul. You were like, it was an honest question. Like, look, Arkansas is they're not a good team right now. Okay,
well, Mark, they're a terrible team.
Right. I was trying to be somewhat nice.
But I mean, you see, you don't have to. You're now like that Mississippi State caller. You don't have to be nice about a team that hasn't won an SEC game in 3 years.
So what's wrong with the reporter saying, listen, okay, your #1 quarterback is going down. You're not sure if he's going to get in. If the score is a blowout, would you not consider putting another quarterback in? Would you try to score to get some other people reps? What is wrong with that question?
There's nothing wrong with the question, although if you cover Alabama, you know that question is going to elicit a response.
Right. People don't like any time that Saban, I don't think, likes any time a reporter insinuates that he's taking an opponent unseriously.
Exactly.
Right?
And so, in one of the rare times I think I've ever said this, Saban had a right to be upset, whether the outrage. That is not an Oscar-nominated outrage, though. Talking to Cole Kublik, so many other games. Cole, I realize we're 2 weeks away from the Alabama game against LSU, but I am interested. You do a show in Birmingham. You're in that state. Just what's the sense, what's the feeling in our final minute and a half here about the Tua injury and the effect it's had on Alabama?
There has been a confusing calm over this, Paul. We've had a lot of callers. We've had a lot of people on 3 Minute Front telling us that Oh, well, Mac Jones could go out and beat Auburn. He can go out and beat Georgia. They're not worried about it. This defense is playing better. These receivers are still that good. All you got to do is get it to the receivers. They're going to go find a way to win. I personally don't believe that. I don't think Alabama can win that game with Mac Jones starting at quarterback. Matter of fact, I think Alabama might lose by 14, 17, 21 points with Mac Jones playing quarterback against LSU because Tua Tagovailoa is that good. But I think the thing that gives Alabama fans confidence is that there have been numerous players over the last 4 or 5 years that have had this high ankle tightrope procedure by the guys at Andrews Sports Medicine. They feel like he's going to be back, be healthy, and be ready to go. And I think a lot of Alabama fans think an 80, 85% Tua is a lot better than any other quarterback in the nation or most other quarterbacks in the nation. And with that group of receivers would still give them a big advantage and a big opportunity to win at home.
Well, I have heard, and I'm sure you have as well, there is optimism coming from inside there about his rehabilitation. But again, until he starts doing anything, you know better than anyone, Cole, all that is just hot air.
No, there's a big difference between going through physical therapy and trying to become healthy and then going out and practice to prepare for a game. It feels right now, Paul, like he's going to be doing physical therapy and rehabilitation while he's being prepared to play LSU. That can obviously, I can make things a little bit more difficult.
Speaking of tomorrow night, let's head to Tuscaloosa where Arkansas takes on Alabama. And Greg McElroy, the weather looks a little bit better there. But what does the forecast look like, Greg, for Tua Tagovailoa a couple of days after surgery? Good afternoon.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be with you. Honestly, things are looking up for Tua here in Tuscaloosa. I think a big reason is because of the ankle that was affected last week is his right ankle. As a left-handed passer, really last year he was really kind of limited because his left ankle was the one that was injured against Georgia. And you think about, as a left-hander, dropping back, that left ankle is going to absorb an awful lot of force as you drop vigorously in the pocket. However, the right ankle wouldn't necessarily feel the same level of stress. So they feel good about his progress. They feel like he's on schedule, if not slightly ahead, and they're optimistic about his availability a couple weeks when LSU comes to town.
Greg, understanding the plant foot is different, but for those of us novices out there who have never been national championship quarterbacks, so what limitations will he have, assuming he's given the green light to play in this game in 2 weeks?
Well, from what I've gathered, Paul, is that, and talking to people that are familiar with an injury similar to this, not talking to anybody that's worked specifically with Tua, really it's mostly about pain management. It can't really get a whole lot worse. So pain management is something that's huge. Another thing, too, is with it being his right ankle, how much will it affect his mobility side to side? Usually when you're running vertically and you're running north and south, it's not really that big of an issue. But when you're cutting and going back and forth, that's when it can become a little bit problematic. So I think it is something that might limit his mobility, and it might adapt the game plan a little bit according to just how immobile he may be. But for the most part, I would expect the offense, if he is available to go here in a couple weeks, I wouldn't expect it to miss much of a beat because they don't do a lot of quarterback run to begin with. And LSU's pass rush, at least up to this point, has not been one that would scare the lights out of the opponent.
I know I run the risk of upsetting your former coach, Nick Saban, by starting by asking you about LSU. So I will ask the obligatory Arkansas question. What do you expect in terms of the quarterbacks tomorrow night? We know Mac Jones will start. You know him. You've been around him. What should we expect?
I actually think Mac Jones is going to do just fine. And talking to Steve Sarkisian today, he feels as though Mac Jones knows the offense and the system as well, if not better in some ways, than Tua Tagovailoa. He just hasn't had the reps. So he thinks that they would love to come out and there not be a beat missed. However, I think everyone understands that with Tua's accuracy and his intangibles and his instincts, it's going to be difficult for Mac Jones to fill those shoes without there being any drop-off whatsoever. So I think they're very optimistic about what he provides. I would expect really a passing attack that's not going to be as much down the field, maybe not as quick hitting as what we've seen in recent weeks from Alabama, but they say he's had a great week of work. They're very excited about him. Talking to the receivers today, they were very excited about working with him and kind of picking up the slack, knowing that they might have to be just slightly sharper, knowing the accuracy might not be quite as on point as you've had a tendency to see with Tua over the last couple of years.
Okay, so this is what got some poor reporter in trouble. What about Tua's brother, and
Am I allowed to? I'm in Tuscaloosa, Paul. Am I allowed to answer that?
no, you officially are not, but I know you will.
Right. Well, I think in a perfect world, Paul, they would love to have Mac Jones go the distance in this game. And Taulia Tagovailoa is available. He has gotten reps this week, but prior to this week, the reps that he'd gotten really only been a handful throughout the first 7 weeks of the season. So in a perfect world, Mac Jones would be able to go all 60 minutes. If Tua's brother Taulia does have to come into the game, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. He has played a little bit this year. Of course, in a perfect world, they'd also love to preserve the ability for him to redshirt. So the 4-game rule would be something that they would consider. But I think this is Mac Jones' show tomorrow, and the only reason we would see Taulia is if Mac Jones were unable to finish the game because of injury, or if he was, for whatever reason, ineffective.
Greg McElroy, you better get out of there as fast as possible. I know this broadcast is on in that building that you spent so much time in, and I know Nick Saban doesn't watch TV or listen to the radio, but he has people that do, and you answered a question.
I'm sure. I think my phone buzzed in the middle of that answer, and I think that might have been Coach saying, "Be quiet." So you're right. You got to be mindful of those comments because Coach is quite literally taking it one play at a time, and the play that's up first tomorrow is going to be one with Mac Jones at quarterback.
And against Alabama's playing. Who are they playing tomorrow?
They're playing Arkansas, Paul. They're playing the Hawks. Yes.
Good to know.
If you look at Arkansas last year, though, Paul, this offense last year did move the ball effectively, and I think Nick Saban did remind his defense of that. That if they don't play well tomorrow, this was an offense that had a little success last year against him, even though their offense, for the most part, was able to go up and down the field and scoring a handful of points against an overmatched Arkansas team.
I just have a friend texted me from the athletic department, the football facility. They just took your picture down.
That's fine. As long as I have my credential so I can get to the booth, I'll be just fine. If you take the picture down, take it. That's okay. I completely understand.
That's right. You're an ESPN guy now. You no longer have any obligation to your alma mater.
The #1 team, the FBS level, is Alabama. What will the Tide look out without Tua Tagovailoa? And how long will they have to look like that? Rain expected as they take on Arkansas, which has lost 15 straight SEC games. But Tua Tagovailoa's ankle injury in the victory against Tennessee, the Tide's 13th straight, made that celebratory victory cigar seem a lot more like one of those defective e-cigarettes. Tagovailoa's precision, brilliance, and excellence with an array of explosive receivers has covered a multitude of deficiencies. Inconsistent running game, a talented but young defense prone to bust from time to time. But who is going to outscore them with Tua? Now they're not sure when they get Tua back. He had the same procedure as last year on his ankle. It's called a tightrope surgery. The idea, put basically a zip tie to tighten the tibia and the fibula together where the ligaments are sprained. Proponents say this dramatically reduces instability. It benefits you. You can get back quicker, but it also helps your long-term stability. He's in a boot. The idea right now is no setback in rehab. Mac Jones is going to take Tua's spot in the lineup while Raekwon Davis took over Tua's ukulele.
I hope you recover fast. I hope you recover fast. I hope you recover fast. 1, 3.
Raekwon multi-talented. So, in the meantime, Mac Jones will start at quarterback. This is the first time in the Saban era that he's had to use a backup quarterback to starter due to injury. He comes from the Bowl School. Previously, Jones was best known as the Nick Saban of sorority flag football. His undefeated Zeta team won the championship last year. Wow. And by the way, Mac will be backed up by Tua's younger brother, Taulia. Here's Nick Saban.
There'd be an effort to get Taulia into the game just to expedite his progression.
You know, we're focused on winning the game. All right, so we're going to try to win the game, and we're going to play the best players that we can play to win the game. And we're not assuming that it's going to be an easy game, and we're not assuming that we'll have opportunity just to play anybody that wants to play, to expedite anything except winning the game. So we're going to play everybody who can expedite winning the game. That's what we're going to do. So I don't think anybody should expect us to do anything else.
I'm out. Shaking his head.
Mic drop.
We're not.
I don't know
That's
why this
brilliant.
reminds me of it. We do want to say hello to Maria Taylor, who's not with us.
Hey, Maria.
Who's not with us this week, working with the NBA. Now, look, they're going to beat Arkansas because Arkansas lost 15 straight SEC games. The question is Alabama, if Tua can't go not 100%, still the favorite in the SEC West?
In my opinion, there's no Alabama in the SEC or national title without Tua. Period.
Gotcha.
Now, he ain't there, they ain't going to be there.
Yeah, I think, first of all, let's just assume that he's going to be able to play.
Yeah.
And how well he's going to play, nobody can predict. Not even Coach Saban's going to know how his ankle will respond. Arkansas game's fine, David, but LSU, let's just wait to see. We got a couple weeks to talk about Tua, but you're right. I mean, if Tua can't play against LSU, they don't have much of a chance.
You know what's very interesting is last year I feel like this was more of a concern than it is this year, because if you're watching Tua, it's not as much about scrambling anymore. Tua's getting the ball out on time, quickly, to his wide receivers. He knows what defenses are trying to do to him quickly. So I think Sarkisian has changed this offense, and this offense has changed, so it's not as big of a deal, him being a little less immobile as it was, I think, a year ago.
Yeah, well, Coach Saban, we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. He said that Steve Sarkisian has done a really good job with Tua, just helping him prepare for what defenses are going to try to do to him in the offense to try to stop him. Now, David talked about his mobility. He'll be okay now. But when Dave Aranda comes up with his game plan, they have to play LSU. That young man is going to want to be mobile because they're getting healthier, the Tigers defense, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on Tua.
And the one thing to remember in terms of this procedure, and it is the other ankle from the one that Tua had late last season, this would be, if he was able to go against LSU, a week sooner. It would be 3 weeks from the surgery as opposed to 4 when he played against Oklahoma. So you look at the percentage chance to win the SEC West according to FPI. It doesn't necessarily take into consideration that Tua is not playing, and also LSU has Auburn this afternoon.
But another huge story in the SEC today happens at Bryant-Denny Stadium as Arkansas comes to town to face the #1 Alabama Crimson Tide. Why is there a big story? Because Tua Tagovailoa will not be on the field as he's dealing with the ankle injury. Of course, it's his right ankle. He injured the left ankle last season, had the similar tightrope procedure, which they say from an orthopedic standpoint is like putting an orthopedic zip tie in that ankle. We're going to talk about that later on, but here's just a little reminder of everything that Tua's been through and why he won't be on the field today.
Tagovailoa as the pocket collapses around him and he's taken down.
Tua Tagovailoa won't return with the lower body injury.
Lots of questions related to Tua Tagovailoa will need to be answered this week.
An update on Tua. Surgery was successful.
They're optimistic that he'll come back, but it's a science.
There's no real timetable for his return.
You have to be concerned with the fragility of his ankles.
This is about Tua. The biggest threat to Alabama was Tua getting injured.
It was one ankle last year, now a different ankle this year.
There's no real timeline for Tua Tagovailoa's return.
This is a tremendous blow for Alabama.
Is this a problem that can occur again and again and again?
The big question regarding Tua is, will he be healthy or not to play LSU in a few weeks?
So here's what the Alabama quarterback depth chart looks like. Redshirt sophomore Mac Jones came in to finish the win against Tennessee, and freshman Taulia Tagovailoa has also taken snaps at quarterback this season. Coach, though, Saban made it clear this week that Mac Jones would be the starter when asked about Taulia. That was an interesting Saban rant. We're not going to talk about that right this second because I do want to get your perspective, Paul. Look, I'm not asking you to be some sort of medical expert here, although I think you probably could be. But from what you know and what you've gathered about Tua's ankle, how close do you think he is to returning specifically for the game against these guys?
Laura, all you can do is listen and try to gauge what you're hearing out of Tuscaloosa. And what I've heard the last 2 or 3 days is very, very positive. A week ago, it was Armageddon. It was like, oh my goodness, how could this, sorry about that, how could this be happening? But anytime you do a religious connotation, I feel badly saying it in front of Tim.
Had to explain it.
But the last 2 or 3 days, Saban has talked about it, saying the swelling isn't as bad. The insiders are whispering it's better than we thought. That's all you can depend on right now. But it's early.
It's still 3 weeks for a high ankle and any surgery. You know, I've unfortunately had way too many surgeries, and I don't know if I've ever fully recovered in 3 weeks from a surgery, even when they're not severe, especially when you've got to play 100% on an ankle. And one of the things that Tua does so well, he's quick with his feet. Look at him. He's not a runner, but he's quick. He's dynamic. He can shuffle up in the pocket and make little movements and that help him with his throwing windows. And so I'm really intrigued because 100% Tua is very different than 67% Tua.
I think we're in a time where it's totally different for Alabama. This injury doesn't mean as much as if we're looking at Alabama teams of the past 3 or 4 years. But this defense is not elite by any stretch. They've been able to compensate for things like this. We were sitting here 2 years ago, they lost 7 linebackers and still went to the college football playoff. They've been able to retool and do these type of things. I thought and said it before the season that this was the #1 thing that could derail Alabama from getting into the college football playoff because he's such a difference maker from the quarterback position. And obviously they need to score points because his defense has given up a lot compared to what we've watched over last season. And now with what LSU is doing offensively, to have the ability to match that could be a struggle with Matt Jones at quarterback or an unfully healthy Tua Tagovailoa.
I really feel that's it. Like, if Joe Burrow in this LSU offense wasn't as dynamic, we would be like, well, he'll have time to recover. LSU's still not going to be able to put up that many points against Alabama. But it's because of Burrow. It's because of this LSU offense that when something happens to Alabama's offense, you say, whoa, they're going to have to keep up with Burrow and company.
Laura, before the season, all the Georgia fans were saying Georgia is passing Alabama. Now, by the way, Alabama fans didn't believe that. Today, I am getting a sense that LSU and Alabama are two ships passing in the night, and it feels real.
It absolutely feels real, I think, just based off of talking to fans. But, well, you know, that means they might collide in the night.
Here's what I'll say. For a long time, LSU went into this game and you knew exactly what they were doing.
Yes.
All right. And the game plan did not fit playing against what Alabama did the best. LSU has a chance. They have a scheme offensively that gives them a chance to win every single game they play in. And that's the difference in this year. The exact same thing we saw last year. What we talked about Clemson, we talked about that D-line. We didn't talk about how high-powered that offense was. And Trevor Lawrence, and they asserted themselves. So it'll be interesting to see where Tua is when they get to this game, but also how effective he can be.
And later on in the show, we're going to have these guys tell you where they're ranking Alabama without Tua, because that's going to be interesting too. Now, today, they will be leaning on this guy, and Nick Saban will be mad at us for talking about all this LSU and not Arkansas, because they are taking on Arkansas today. Matt Jones is considered this guy that might be a game manager, but Lane Kiffin was on Paul's show. The reason why that matters is because he coached Mac Jones when he was at Alabama and said he's a game manager in a good way. So that's what he'll be asked to do, manage the game against Arkansas, and probably we'll see a healthy dose of the run game today, you would think. But considering Tua's health, it's incredibly important to get Mac out there and get him going. Biggest game of his life for sure. 2 big top 10 matchups coming up for Alabama in November. And assuming a healthy Tua Tagovailoa, the Crimson Tide have a 30% chance to finish 13-0, according to ESPN's Football Power Index. But those computers sometimes can't crunch those numbers when it comes to health. So that could change the entire thing. Alabama without Tua Tagovailoa today because of the injury to his right ankle. He had the tightrope surgery this past week and is expected to return at some point, maybe soon. There is no timetable according to Nick Saban, although reports have been pretty good out of Tuscaloosa. Since the start of last season, Tua Tagovailoa has thrown 11 more touchdown passes than any other player in FBS. Mac Jones gets the job today, but they will certainly miss Tua. Greg McElroy is in Tuscaloosa calling the game. He has the latest on Tua.
Thanks, Laura. Well, the latest from Tuscaloosa is that Tua Tagovailoa's ankle is progressing as scheduled, if not slightly ahead of schedule, frankly, just a few days removed from surgery. They don't feel like it's quite as bad, knowing that he's a left-handed passer, and this injury occurred against Tennessee on his right leg. Last year, it was his left leg, his plant leg, so they don't feel like it's going to have a long-term impact, and he should be back on the practice field here sooner than later, and hopefully, for most Alabama fans, be at 100%, or at least close to it, when LSU comes rolling to town in a couple weeks.
Great stuff from Greg. Tim's going to add on a little bit more from the RPO standpoint with Tua Tagovailoa. Why would that affect his ankle?
It's such a big part of their game, of their offense, is the RPO, is the ability to have run-pass options, is reading the defense, and is being not to be able to run, but it's to be able to be quick and throw from the pocket. You see how look at his footwork. Look how fast it has to be. It's always adjusting, moving your feet, being able to go from a handoff, a running position, right into a pass, right into a quick throw. It's not like it's down the field, it's quick. Look how quick his feet are moving back and forth to get in position to be accurate. Now we're going to put you through it, show you. So
let me be the back.
You're the running back. He's been dreaming of this his whole life.
Biggest back ever in history.
So if I say hut, and I'm riding, right now I make the decision, I have to throw the ball. What do I have to do? I have to reset instantly, and I have to fire. That means I got to be quick on both of my feet, and they got to be stable to be able to throw. But look for Alabama to have the running back more on the left side. Watch how much easier it is for a left-handed quarterback. Say, hut, I'm here. I make the decision to throw. Now I just reset my weight, and I throw the football. It makes it so much easier. So against LSU, watch the running back to be on the left side more than the right. It'll be easier for Tua, less pressure on his right ankle.
Okay, very well done. And I think that gives people a great perspective of how this could work for Tua. Do you think, Tim, you've played with injuries. I mean, you have too. At the position, how much is it in your head? He's been through this before, but it's got to be
I had a high ankle on my right ankle as a left-handed quarterback, trying to go through zone reads and play actions and throwing with it. It's miserable, but it's more manageable on your right ankle than your left ankle.
Paul, have you ever hosted with an injury before?
Today.
What happened? Are you okay?
What's your injury, Paul?
It's below 70 degrees.
All right. So put that on the injury report. We'll add that to the news and notes later on in the show. Paul is cold. How about the top 10 in college football as Tim throws a nice, beautiful pass? Is that a go route? I don't think anyone went.
He dropped it.
This is the 20th time that the SEC has had 5 teams in the top 10 in the AP poll. No other conference has ever had more than 4 teams in the top 10 in a single poll. This feels like a really good time to say it just means more. Arkansas, Alabama, where Mac Jones gets the start for Alabama with Tua out. Who you taking?
I'm going to Alabama. And look, this is a perfect situation for Mac Jones to come in, get his feet wet, call some plays. They can be more comfortable with putting him in positions to push the ball downfield. To just so happen he has to be ready November 9th when LSU comes into town. It's a great job for him today.
Marcus, I agree with you. I think it's a really good situation to get Mac Jones in the game. I've been impressed with him in the spring games, the few times he's come in. I think he's done a good job. Is he Tua? No. But is he a capable SEC quarterback? Absolutely. Yeah. Going Alabama.
Not a hard pick. Alabama.
Okay. Certainly hopeful he'll be back for the LSU game. It will have been 3 weeks removed from the injury. Alabama won the toss, wants to put its defense on the field first, understandably, with Tua out. So they kick it deep to Warren. And a touchback that will come out to the 25. Third down and long for Starkel. And a receiver is wide open. It's Boyd. And he is out to midfield.
You look at the man coverage that's supposed to be played. This is supposed to be man coverage. And as soon as that back releases, it's got to be Markale Benton that they've had in the past, but certainly capable in the open field as well.
High snap, and Jones able to get it to Harris. On a broken play, they still get positive yardage. Wow, Joe Fouché just levels Harris on the far sideline.
Yeah, that's a good job by Mac Jones corralling this really high snap, making something out of nothing.
And man, Matt, they played in some crazy games, almost beat Clemson earlier in the year. Here it's 3-0 Alabama after a 14-play drive that took 6.5 minutes off the clock. Starkel dumps it off, and able to break a tackle is big Treylon Burks. True freshman, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's out to the 40 for 15 yards. Quarterback now. His first game of the season. Redshirt freshman swings it out to Boyd, and Boyd carrying tacklers before he's leveled by Battle. They moved the ball in Alabama last year in Fayetteville. Boyd has running room off the left edge. About 9 yards before Anthony Jennings makes the stop. There's Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. And ends up in the hands of Ruggs. So why do they say that it was incomplete unless he's juggling?
I don't think anybody saw him catch it.
So he's juggling. He has control, and looks like those two toes are clearly in bounds. I'm not really sure what could lead you to think that that was incomplete.
Maybe they were as surprised as everybody else in the building when Ruggs was sitting there in the back of the end zone.
Guys, I think it was the contact on Devontae Smith.
After further review, the ruling on the field ruling is it's a touchdown.
Offensive lineman, right, running the ball, pro-style offense mostly. To now what you have here, pressure off the edge. Starkel hits Whaley, who's out at the 40-yard line. They finally catch up to him at the 43.
Yeah, you're going to see pressure up the middle, which is going to have one-on-one coverage on the end of the line of scrimmage. Whaley working against Anthony Jennings, who's really a lot better rushing the passer, getting after the passer, but in coverage, those guys catch the ball with full head of steam.
Here's Judy, and he's able to break a tackle, and he's heading in. Touchdown, Alabama. Here's Harris. No signal yet. It's a touchdown. 23-0. Here's Harris again. He's in. It's 30-0, Alabama. 2nd and 10. Judy on the wide receiver screen. That was well defended by Arkansas. Bumper Pool. 31-0 Matt, and the Tide looking for more. This is Waddle. That's a good tackle at the 12-yard line by King. Jones on 3rd down and 10. The backwards pass to Harris. And they bottle him up at the line of scrimmage. Listed at 5'11", 199 pounds. He'll hand it off again here. Boyd pushed out after he got the first down. 2nd down and 5. Whaley again. And first down as he's into Alabama territory. Carter on the stop. Starkel on 3rd and 3. And another interception. He threw it right to Diggs. And Diggs, who had a fumble recovery for a touchdown last week, has a pick 6 this week. Touchdown, Bama. To get ready for the rest of the season. Arkansas will string that one out as Robinson is brought down by Dijon Harris, so a gain of 2 on the play.
Well, that's your plant leg. That's the leg that endures a lot of force, so right ankle is a good thing for his recovery.
Jones taking a shot here for Judy. The pass is on the money. It's a touchdown.
Holds the tibia and the fibula together.
Correct. His ankle's only going to get better after this procedure.
Here's Boyd out in space past the 40 and out of bounds around the 44. So 5'11". He weighs about 10 pounds less than his older brother. Brian Robinson off the left side, cut down after no gain.
And Paul Tyson, the other freshman quarterback.
Tonga Vailoa rolling out. He's a right-handed passer, and he completes it to Ruggs. Back to the ground, and Robinson. Ageem's got him in the backfield. Gets him to the ground for a 2-yard loss at the 30.
And where he's eventually going to get to.
Tonga Vailoa on 3rd down, almost threw an interception.
Now he's able to adapt to what he thinks his team needs.
So on 1st down, they run Boyd. Gain of about 9. Jones keeps it. It's a 1st down. Just scoots out of play.
I did not have a concussion. It was, I was seeing ghosts, if you will.
Oh, don't say that now.
Greg, can you get one after this game?
And he took full advantage of that on several occasions.
Hey, Luke's, write that down. Greg needs to be yelled at to get the best out of him. Now, we're going to hold on to that for the rest of the season. You were going to lose to Western Carolina based on how he talked about them?
Right.
Did you really think that, or was that just a comment you made to the media back then to make Coach look good? Whaley down to about the 20. John Stephen Jones moving the team, though. Here's Whaley getting the first down inside the 10, so it'll be first and goal. John Stephen Jones in at quarterback again. You're going to throw it here to O'Grady, who's past the 5 and into the end zone for the Arkansas touchdown.
This design, just a little inside, and you're going to get O'Grady out the back door. A nice throw by John Stephen Jones. And a good drive by the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Against most of the first-team defense for Alabama.
That was the first-team defense, so what a moment for that young man.
Where you can play 4 games and still redshirt. I know that rule is being abused by some, by the minority.
That scat back would be a valuable piece.
Here's Keilan Robinson again. You look at
Mark Ingram. I'd do anything for him. Such a great teammate.
Second and goal, and Robinson being patient. Found a hole, but it closed at about the 2, so it'll be third and goal. 4 championships he won with the Tide. That team had a loss. Tagovailoa keeping it on third and goal, and he's tackled at the 5, losing a couple. Taulia Tagovailoa, a chance here to go for it. Rolls to the left, and the right-handed quarterback throws high. Incomplete, intended for Shavers, and so Arkansas will take over on downs, but this one's been in the bag for a while for the Tide. Alabama's going to go to 8-0.
Let's check in on Alabama. You guys know the story by now. No Tua as he sits out with the ankle against Arkansas. Mac Jones, first career start. Do this. Find Jerry Jeudy.
This is all we're waiting to see all day long. What is Mac Jones going to look like in the game starting for Alabama? He went 18 of 22. Now they go into a bye week, but this is a great start for Mac Jones.
How about a little Tide defense? Pick 6 by Trevon Diggs.
And Trevon Diggs has been Johnny on the spot. Remember, he had that long fumble return touchdown on the goal line last week against Tennessee. Here, getting the 84-yard pick 6.
So the defense rolling, then Taulia, Tua's brother, comes in looking like his older brother. Buys some time to find Brian Robinson Jr.
By this time, the game is over, but give Alabama credit. These 2 young quarterbacks stepped in, made plays. And look at this receiving group they're thrown to with Jeudy and Ruggs and Smith. They can score from anywhere.
He looks like a right-handed version of his brother.
He does. That's scary. 31 straight at home for Alabama. Longest streak in SEC history. Here's Saban with an update on Tua.
Tua is doing really well. He's on the Ultra G already, running on the Ultra G. We expect him to return to practice by midweek, this week. I don't know what he'll be able to do or how much, but, that's sort of the prognosis for where we are right now.
Alabama at home against Arkansas. Of course, the story there is no Tua Tagovailoa, the high ankle sprain and the tightrope surgery that he had for the second time in less than a year. It's Mac Jones, the redshirt sophomore, getting his first career start. Mac Jones to Jerry Jeudy, 14 yards. Good to have guys like Jeudy and Ruggs and Smith, and Waddle, everybody else. There's Devontae Smith, 6 yards. No problem. Oh, look at him. Get the high snap, hand off to Najee Harris. And just kind of a textbook Alabama drive, right?
Weapons not the explosive
everywhere.
drive that we're used to seeing. You turn on the tape, usually you're seeing Alabama score in a couple plays. A little more methodical on this first touchdown drive of the afternoon.
Throw back there to Miller Forrestall.
I like the fact that he used different receivers. That time it was a tight end. It wasn't the regular names, right? It wasn't just always the wideouts. He spread the ball around quite a bit today.
3rd and 9, knew where the stick was, got the first down there. Well, no, actually just short. Yeah, Alabama ended up with 3 out of it. It was just short, I should say. And then, oh boy, look, he's going to the end zone. Christian Harris, well, not quite to the end zone, but into the red zone. 37 yards off the Nick Starkel, who started. Fumble, Tide takes over. Watch this. Sometimes it's good to just be lucky. Look, we think he might have wanted Jerry Jeudy, but it ends up in the arms of Henry.
That's a tough catch, I'll tell you. As a receiver with the ball coming through another guy's hands like that, Ruggs did a great job of concentrating.
Well, he hit Ruggs once. There's Jerry Jeudy for the touchdown. Mac Jones looks awfully comfortable there. Full week to prepare, why not? Little quick slant, DeVonta Smith. Who threw that pass? Looks just like Tua does it. Almost.
Yeah, it really does, but it looks more like what we see the receivers do every single week. But you know what I like? Mac Jones got rid of the ball quick today. He didn't stand back there and have to make a lot of decisions. He got rid of the ball and let the receivers do the rest.
Tua on the sideline in the walking boot. Happy to see his team performing without him. And then Starkel throws, intercepted. Trevon Diggs. Diggs is gone. Second straight game with a defensive touchdown for Diggs. First Bama player to do that since Vinny Sunseri 6 seasons ago.
I was going to say Eddie Jackson would have been my guess.
Felt like he would have.
Yeah.
I guess he never had him in back-to-back games. 41 zip at the half, Bama. Then Mac. Deep. Judy. Strike. Touchdown.
That's what you needed to see from him, right? Do something other than throw it 7-8 yards. Let the receivers do the rest. He needed some of these deep balls, some of these explosive plays to make everybody feel like, hey, I got the downfield passing game. We're in.
How about
Tagovailoa?
That's a Taulia Tagovailoa. Taulia scrambling, throwing, finding Brian Robinson Jr. for the first down. Look, no Tua, it was no concern for Alabama, not against this Arkansas team. 48-7 your final score. Mac Jones, 18 of 22, 235, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns, 4 incompletions for Mac Jones in his first career start. It's just good to be Nick Saban, and not just because he's hanging out after the game with Tom Luginbill.
Coach, a convincing win for your football team here tonight. How did you improve as an overall football team heading into the bye week?
Well, I think we got a lot of players from experience. To know Mac Jones can win a game and operate the way he did is, really a lot of confidence for him, and it's really good for our team down the road. I think we got to play a lot of players in the game, so that gives them a lot of experience, which obviously helps their depth. And there's always a bunch of stuff that you can learn from and get better. When they put number 9 at quarterback, they were running all the zone options and stuff, and we weren't kind of ready for that. So we'll learn a lot from that as well.
Mac Jones played well tonight, but how important was it for the people around him to play well and have confidence in it?
Well, that was the message all week. The message to Mac was, hey, you got to be the commander-in-chief now. You got to be the leader. You're not a sparring partner anymore. And the rest of you guys around him, you need to all play well so that it makes it easier for him. And I think everybody did that.